Whether you are a first-time home buyer, a first-time seller, an investor, or thinking about relocating to Halifax, this video is for you. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Greg Pierce. I am a local real estate agent and investor here in Halifax, Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. And I'm so grateful that you're here to join today because this is a broad topic. We're going to be covering a lot, and I'm going to be answering a lot of questions that I get kind of throughout my career, and a lot of people are asking these days, but making it a little more clear and concise so that you get those answers in a nice tidy video. So first question I'm going to cover today is what makes Halifax so special? Now, for the most part, I think most people love their own cities, and I am a little bit biased because I do live here. I was born and raised in the area, and I absolutely love what Halifax has become. But I do want to throw out some caveats that it's not all rainbows and butterflies here, so I will get to those points as well. Now, Halifax doesn't have any pro sports teams here. We don't have any iconic landmarks or wonders of the world, but culmination of everything that Halifax has is truly what makes this such a special place. And I want to make sure that you feel comfortable investing your hard-earned dollars or selling your real estate here in Halifax is a smart choice, and that's what I'm going to cover here today. Now, first and foremost, Halifax is a harbor city. It is a beautiful harbor. It is extremely scenic during all 12 months. But the important piece here too is the economy that the harbor has. We have cruise ships coming in and out of this harbor. We have tons of cargo ships non-stop going back and forth from places like Asia and Europe. And we also have a ton of activity from a recreation standpoint with sailboats all through the harbor, sea-doos, the ferry going back and forth from Dartmouth and Halifax, and it is just a flurry of activity. It's a ton of fun to watch, particularly in the summer months. When you consider what makes cities special and what makes people want to live in those areas, yes, there needs to be jobs and economy, but they're usually built around some type of feature that is aesthetically pleasing. So if you think about major cities here in Canada, Vancouver, we have the Pacific Coast. Toronto is built right on top of Lake Ontario. And then out in Calgary, you have the Rockies. So you need to have these features, and Halifax has that in spades. Another beautiful thing about Halifax is the slower pace of life. Everything on the East Coast moves a little bit slower, and people absolutely love that. Nobody's in a rush. There's not this sense of excitement and anxiety. It's just kind of a slow-paced environment here, and the culture is phenomenal. Halifax also does a great job at blending old-time charm with new and modern development. Now, if you have explored a number of cities, you will realize that this is not always an easy task. From the Citadel Fortress, which is a National Historic Site here in Canada, all the way to Queen's Mark, which is a new development situated on the Halifax waterfront. Halifax does a phenomenal job meeting all of those aspects in between old-time charm and new modern development. Now, question number 2 is a very important one, and that is, has Halifax hit its ceiling in terms of real estate prices? Now, I'm going to get down to my exact prediction at the end of this video, but for the sake of time, the answer is no. We absolutely have not hit our ceiling, and I'm going to explain why. Halifax has been in high demand, both from an interprovincial migration standpoint and from new immigrants coming into the country. Halifax has been one of the fastest growing cities in Canada over the past couple of years, and that trend is not slowing down. So clearly we have the demand side covered, but what's the supply situation like? Well, long and short of it is, it's not good. Halifax is struggling right now, both from a rental supply standpoint as well as ownership and new development. Now, this is not from a lack of trying. Up until recently, there were no programs or incentives from the levels of government to really support and push these types of initiatives through. As a result, we are at least 6 to 8 years away from proper supply for our city. And unfortunately, pairing that with the higher interest rates as of late, a lot of builders have put stops on their construction projects due to the high servicing of debt. So what does all this mean for real estate prices? Well, the long and short of it is that supply and demand is always going to be the biggest driving factor for real estate prices. Yes, interest rates do play a big factor in that, but we're poised now to have these rate drops here in the coming years. So this is going to create a big demand on the buy side. And again, there's just not enough supply. So that is going to continue to drive prices up. Secondly, as mentioned, with the growing population, there is no signs of this city slowing down in terms of its growth. In fact, Halifax has some of the lowest density for major cities all across Canada. How do we measure that? It really comes down to population per square kilometer, and we look at a 30-minute radius from the city center. And as you can see, Halifax is quite low compared to some of the other major cities, which means there is room for more density. There are projects and proposals underway already to allow larger buildings, which is only going to increase density in the city core. That's going to allow a city like Halifax to really grow and flourish. Now, as mentioned before, there are some caveats. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. And right now, our healthcare system, as well as our education system, is strained. So by adding more people to our city, that is only going to put more strain and stress on those programs. So is this going to be a good place to live? Is this going to be feasible? Well, the answer is yes. I do not have any control over that. Obviously, this comes down to government. But at the end of the day, this is a huge focus that the government has, both from a provincial and federal level. And we need to start bringing in the proper tradespeople and proper skilled employees to fill these positions, to allow more nurses and doctors and teachers to come into our province and work in these places to support our province and help the city of Halifax grow. Now, just a side note, I am pro-immigration, but it's important for me to explain why this is so important in Canada. Essentially, Canadians are not replacing themselves. And what I mean by that is we are not reproducing enough children to grow our population, which is going to increase our overall GDP. So in order for us to grow as a country, not only in population, but our gross domestic product, GDP, is through immigration. That is why our current government has put such a heavy focus on that, but it is a bit of a cart before the horse scenario because we're bringing in a lot of new people into the country, which I welcome. Having said that, our systems and infrastructures are already strained, and that is not unfamiliar to the city of Halifax. So I don't want you to think that it is all rainbows and butterflies, as I've mentioned multiple times on this channel already. However, am I concerned that these issues won't be addressed? Absolutely not. I am super confident living here in Halifax as a local resident with my wife and 2 young children. I have all the faith in the world that this is going to resolve itself and we're going to get back on track. And lastly, we have free healthcare. It's not the end of the world. We still just have longer waits to see doctors. It can get better, absolutely, but these issues aren't the end of the world. They're just something that comes from being in a privileged city in a privileged country. Question number 3 is around location and where to buy or sell real estate outside the city center of Halifax. Yes, I absolutely love Dartmouth. I do live here. I did grow up in an area around here called Cole Harbour, so I am a little bit biased. But trust me when I tell you, it is a great spot for up-and-comers if you're looking for a more affordable home to buy. And if you still need all those close-by amenities, Dartmouth is a phenomenal spot to live. Number 1, we have the views of Halifax. We are situated opposite of Halifax on the other side of the harbor. So when we walk on the Dartmouth waterfront, we get the whole skyline of Halifax, which is absolutely beautiful. Number 2, we share the harbor. We have just as much benefit as the Halifax side. Yes, the amenities and the boardwalk may not be up to the same level as Halifax, but we still get the beautiful views of watching all the boats go by on a nice hot sunny day. And Dartmouth has tons of bars and restaurants right downtown along the waterfront to make sure that you have an enjoyable visit or hopefully an enjoyable stay when you buy your spot here. Furthermore, Dartmouth has some incredible parks like Sullivan's Pond, Lake Bonook, and then Shuby Park, which is great for dog lovers. And as you're walking your dog, you can get glimpses of Dartmouth Crossing, which is easily the best shopping district in all of Atlantic Canada. Geographically, depending on where you're positioned in Dartmouth, you're only about a 10 to 15 minute drive to downtown Halifax. But the benefit of living in this area is we have one of the oldest saltwater ferries in the world, and that runs back and forth between Dartmouth all the time, and it is considered part of our Metro Transit, which I think is just a couple of bucks for a trip. Side note, if you're looking for a cheap harbor tour and you don't want to pay the big bucks, hop on the ferry and take it back, and you're going to get a great experience along the way. Question number 4 is, if you were looking to get the best return on your investment over the next 5 or 6 years, what areas would you buy in? I have 3 answers for that, specifically the north end of Dartmouth. Number 2 is an area called Timberley, and number 3 is an area called Enfield. I like all 3 of those areas for different reasons, but you need to be thinking about the expansion of Halifax. As Halifax grows, it is going to grow out for the most part, and you want to get in on those levels. Now, is Timberley, Enfield, and the north end of Dartmouth already in the crosshairs of many buyers and investors? Absolutely. Having said that, there is still a ton of room for growth, and there's a lot of properties that are undervalued right now that you can get in at the ground floor and ride some really great appreciation returns. And that leads me to my last question. Where do you think the Halifax market is headed over the next 6 to 8 years? Based on everything that I've already talked about in this video, I do see Halifax growing by 4 to 6% over the next 6 to 8 years at that consistent level year over year. So that is going to have some compound growth factors in terms of home prices here, because I do have a lot of people asking, well, should we wait? Is the market going to crash? What's going to happen when the interest rates come down? I stress this all the time in my videos. It isn't about timing the market. It is about time in the market. You need to get your foot in the door of real estate in order to ride the appreciation and the growth of real estate over the long term. The average home price in the Halifax area right now is around $550,000 at the time of this recording. Do not be surprised that if in 7 or 8 years, the average home price is up around $750,000. Now, you might be asking yourself, how the heck are those prices going to be sustainable in Halifax? Well, it's really the way that any home price has become what it is in any major market, and that is that there is enough people that are willing to pay those prices to buy these homes. At the end of the day, when we look at market value of a property, you have a seller that has a set price, and you have a buyer that is either willing or not willing to pay that price to buy that house. Now, I'm sure people watching this video are thinking that is absolutely ridiculous. There is no way. And it works a lot in the same way as inflation. In fact, real estate's a great hedge against inflation. But, you know, we talk about these stories about our grandparents paying 5 cents for chocolate bars, and here they are now $1.50 or $2. And regardless of the time that you're in, it seems unfathomable when you're in that moment. But then suddenly it arises and you're paying these prices for these goods and services and homes, and that just becomes the reality. So don't underestimate the power of compound growth, whether that's through appreciation or interest rates. And that is essentially how we're going to get to this marker that I've talked about. The facts are there, the supply and demand issue. We are a growing population. We've got low density compared to a number of other major Canadian cities. All the ingredients are there for a strong and growing real estate market here in Halifax. So whether you already own a home here and you don't know when is a good time to sell, or you're a first-time buyer, or you may be thinking of relocating here, or you're a savvy investor looking for a good market to put your cash to work, this is a great opportunity. I cannot stress enough. Obviously, I like to walk the talk. I live here. I own multiple properties in this area. I'm raising a family here. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be here talking to you today about the beauty of Halifax and all that it has to offer, and why I think it's a great place to live, but also a great investment for the future. Before you go, I have 3 things that I would really appreciate you doing. Number 1 is liking this video. Number 2 is commenting below where you live and where you're watching this video from. And number 3, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps grow my channel and gets my voice out there to more people that are looking to learn more about Halifax, Nova Scotia, and the real estate market out here on the East Coast. Thank you so much. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.